Hey, welcome everybody. Chef Marshall O'Brien here, Cooking with Confidence cooking show tonight. It is Thursday night. It is time to get started. But before we actually get started, make sure that you are following us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. We are live streaming both channels. We want you to hang out and subscribe so that we can continue to provide this great cooking show for you. Before I tell you the recipe, I got to tell you why we're doing it, okay? 4 things. Number 1, we want to give you something positive, fun, at least one night a week. We know we could have more positive things in our life these days. Number 2, we want to help you improve your skills and confidence in the kitchen, and we want to help take a little stress out of your life with some meal planning. And finally, we want to help you nourish yourself, not just feed yourself. Follow us Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Chef Marshall O'Brien, and Chef Marshall's Cooking with Confidence. All right, tonight's recipe is a good one. It's an easy one, and there's a magical ingredient in there, a couple that people have been asking. Sweet Dreams, one-pan chicken. What is this all about? Or is it just food marketing? Or is it both? I don't know. Let us know in the comments below, folks. You've been asking, how do we connect? chefmarshallobrien.com/show. Tonight's recipe, we have chicken, of course. We have some kale, some pinto beans. You could use any kind of beans that you want for that matter. Some tomatoes, garlic, crushed red pepper, a little salt, and a little bit of olive oil. This is simple, and it's very, very tasty. Please let us know as you are cooking along, or maybe you cooked it earlier in the week, or you cooked it, or you're going to cook it this weekend. Take a picture of that product so that we can give you a shout out for your hard work in creating this culinary masterpiece. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, and again, follow us on YouTube so we can unlock more production capabilities to provide you this show live and give you the recap of the show and other great helpful cooking tips in the kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Marshall. Let's dig in. I feel like I'm already missing something, but I'm not. Wow. All right. What are you pointing at over there? Oh, well, yes, of course. Okay, I already stepped on my foot. My beautiful, amazing right-hand gal, Miss Jana. For those of you that don't know, she is my wife, life partner, and I'm a very, very, very lucky man to have you be helping and having you in my life. So thank you very much.
Thank you, my love.
You're welcome. Okay, now I need to get myself out of the hole. All right. Anyways, moving on. Tonight, awesome recipe, as I said, Sweet Dreams, one-pan chicken. Why do we call it one-pan? Let me know in the comments. Why is it called a sheet pan meal? Why is it called skillet meal? Well, part of it is a little bit of marketing to pique your curiosity, but we're literally using one pan. And aren't you glad, or aren't I glad, that it wasn't a hot pan? It would have burned like a you-know-what. So one-pan chicken, I want to help make it easy for you. For those of you that have been doing our recipes and participating in our weekly cooking show, live interactive cooking show, again, go to chefmarshallobrien.com/show to sign up to get the recipes. It doesn't cost you anything other than your time and your willingness to have something super yummy and super nourishing. Okay? We want to make it easy, get the barriers out of the way. Minimal dishes, minimal stress, but lots of fun, lots of great flavor, and again, lots of nourishing foods, because we want food to work for you, not against you. We want to have a positive experience, etc., etc., etc. So let's get into tonight's positive experience. Questions, comments, thoughts, please let us know in the chat box in YouTube or on Facebook, and Jana is going to shout them out, and I will be answering them in real time. Now, if you are watching this weekend in a recorded episode, I will not be able to shout out the questions because I will not be on the episode, but you will. You can certainly ask those questions. For this recipe, and I always talk about trying to give you those little tips and practical nuggets on how to making these great tasting, nourishing meals easy for you. Make sure you're set up. Make sure you're organized. You're prepared. You've got your pan, you got your stirring spoon. I mean, this is, I know, kind of simple stuff, but if you don't have your tools, it's really hard to be able to create a stress-free meal that with ease, and I want this to be with ease. Lord knows we got enough stress in our life with all the other crazy things. We don't need to have stress in our life from making dinner. All right, questions, comments, thoughts. Heating up my pan. While the pan is heating up, we are going to cut up our chicken. And I have chicken breasts here. I got a couple things. I mentioned Sweet Dreams one-pan chicken, right? Well, actually, I've got 2 secret ingredients, and you might be surprised when you hear that Who's heard of the amino acid, the choline amino acid? I'm sure everyone's flooding their fingers with comments in the chat box. I'm kidding, of course, because a lot of people don't think of choline amino acids. But who's heard of tryptophan? I want to know, who's heard of tryptophan? We always associate it. Yeah, you've heard it, Alex. I want to give shout-outs to producer Alex and Gabriel in the back making tonight happen for us. If it wasn't for them and for Jana, we wouldn't be doing this. But who has heard of tryptophan? Who has heard of tryptophan? Well, tryptophan, as I just alluded to, is this choline amino acid. We always associate it with what? Turkey. We always associate it with Thanksgiving. And what do we associate Thanksgiving with? Passing out from eating too much food. Okay, so look, all jokes aside, the tryptophan, we now know that there's a lot of tryptophan in chicken. Why is that significant? I know I'm making this really dramatic, but tryptophan is this calming amino acid. It's going to help relax your body. So you want to get good sleep at night? Get some tryptophan-rich foods into your life, and that can help you with getting better sleep. Sweet dreams, my lady.
Yep.
All right.
What
we got
Dominic says, turkey nap.
Yeah, okay, buddy, you got it. That's right. So, turkey, chicken. There's tryptophan in a lot of different foods, but I wanted you to know that that's part of the sweet dreams here. And then there's another one that I'll tell you in just a second. Little tip for you folks, little cooking tip that I want you to keep in mind. Right now I'm sitting here, cutting up all this chicken. Well, what if you had multiple chicken dishes? So the tip would be then to cut up the chicken for those multiple chicken dishes, so you're not doing it later on when you're cooking. Make it really easy for yourself. Prep what you can, sort of like the cook once, eat many times. I love getting all the barriers out of the way. And I'll be honest, folks, I mean, I give you a lot of these tips, and I do most of the tips for myself as well. I just, sometimes you want to try different things, or you forget, life happens. I get it. Totally get it. We're chopping up all this chicken. Questions, comments, thoughts. All right, that looks great. We're going to take our hot pan. We're going to add our olive oil to it. If you want to use ghee, you could certainly use that. Clarified butter, they're more or less the same thing. Just the milk fat's been removed, so they have a higher smoke point, which is kind of nice. What do we always talk about, folks? You want to make sure that you got a hot pan, and we're going to start with that sizzle. So let's start with that sizzle. All right, moment of truth. Is my pan hot enough? Oh, kind of. Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I'm going to turn it up a little bit higher, a little medium, high heat.
While it's sizzling.
Yes.
Let's see. BK Mullen, I'm using only the spines of the kale. What will be the difference in cooking for me? Should I steam, microwave it first, or just cook it longer in the pan?
So if I understand right, BK, you're using the...
Only spines of the kale.
Only the spines of the kale. Yeah, I like how you put on your detective hat there. The spines are going to be obviously more dense. Let's just take a look at this. I mean, this is just one example. I mean, and the kale can be in different sizes. This happened to be a little more compact, a little more frillier than normal kale. But you got that really thick stem. And to BK's what they alluded to is, yeah, you're going to want to cook this a little bit longer. Now, here's a little tip for you. Another little culinary tip I want you to keep in mind is you can take the stems, and we'll get, I'll officially get into the...
And they can't have leafy greens, that's why.
Okay, so I'm really curious, how will these stems do for you? Well, the tip is slice those stems really, really thin. And then that way they'll cook a lot faster. Now, you do not need to break the stems into little pieces and individually cut those up. That's not what I'm saying. But you can, strip the greens and then move forward like that. Now, speaking of moving forward, what I'd like to do is we're going to add a little salt to our chicken here. It's really important to have that sizzle. Why do you need the sizzle, ladies and gentlemen? Let me know in the comments. Hey, speaking of which, those of you that are cooking with me tonight, or if you're just watching and you're going to cook this weekend, how are your knife skills? Scale of 1 to 4. 4 superstar, rock star knife ninja, and 1, I'm scared to hold it. Where are you at these days? Let us know in the comments. Okay?
And question.
Yes.
Angela is asking, I feel like I have heard that you have to cut meat a certain way. Is that true, or does it depend? Oops, let's see. Does it depend on what kind of meat?
I'm not quite understanding the question. Now, like meat, and if you think about like meat is a muscle, right? Just like you think of like your bicep and, like you have these fibers. When you cut meat a certain way, you can cut crosswise, meaning you slice through the fibers, so cut across the grain, and then you have like a whole, like the meat stays intact. If you cut with the grain, if that makes sense, with the strands, it can be a little, like it doesn't cut as well. So maybe that's what you're referring to. If you can give me some clarification, that would be much appreciated. All right, we are going to mixing up our
We have three.
chicken here.
Okay, when you're mixing it, we have threes. We have 1, 3, 4, 3.
All right, for you ones there, folks, I appreciate you participating with me tonight. I appreciate you putting your courage in your hands and start doing some chopping, slicing, dicing. Keep practicing 1 minute a day. Now, obviously, I'm cooking a little bit more. I'm chopping, slicing, dicing a little more than 1 minute tonight. But if you just practice your knife skills for 1 minute a day, 7 days in a row, 7 minutes a week, a lot of sevens in there, which is less than 10. Okay, more than 5. Point is your confidence is going to go up, your skills are going to go up, and therefore you're going to be more efficient, and it's going to be easier, and that number is going to go up. So please, practice, practice, practice. Okay, next thing we want to do, we've got our chicken, it's getting all nice, and chicken's getting all nice and cooked up. We've got to add our garlic, and then we're going to add our greens. So I'm just going to move that mountain of greens out of the way just for a second. Questions, comments, thoughts? Gonna get this stuff put away. I have fresh garlic. I love to cook with fresh garlic, but what do I also like to do when it comes to garlic? Anybody? For those of you that have been watching the show, watching us do recipes, what do I also like to do when it comes to having garlic ready? There we go. There's the hint. The hint is, anybody saying it yet? I'm gonna chop this up. I'm gonna take my garlic and I'm gonna firmly press down. You can smash it down. Although if you have a little, if your kitchen, like if your cutting board setup is set up in a way where if you make loud smashing sounds, it rattles and potentially breaks your little improvisational cutting board setup, maybe you want to do it a little more gently. But the point is, you want to smash those garlic cloves. Where I was going with this, folks, is I like to chop up a bunch in advance. Remember that. Chop a bunch up in advance, and then I will even freeze it, as you can see right here. Okay? So I just chopped up a bunch of garlic, and that was on the 15th. So that was on Monday. I cut it out. I flattened it. We are good to go. See, look at that. How slick is that? And now I have fresh frozen garlic. Definitely use it. It works great. And then that way, again, you're getting one of those prep barriers out of the way so that you can just do this with a little more convenience, a little more efficiency. And if you like chopping garlic and you like, all that whole setup, then go for it. All right. Let your knife do the work. Yeah,
While you're cutting the
Go for it.
garlic.
Yeah.
Tess is asking, if you have a smaller pan, can you cook in batches, then combine everything in the next step?
Absolutely, yeah. So I have here, I think this is like a 10-inch, it's maybe a 12-inch, or it's a 10-inch skillet. And I'll be able to more or less I'll basically be able to do this in one batch. But you could certainly do it, because what happens if you overcrowd your pan, it's just going to kind of stew and simmer. And it's interesting because as you're watching, like I've got a lot of moisture coming off of the chicken right now. And so the pan is a little bit, crowded. But that moisture is going to dissipate here, and the chicken's going to start to caramelize very, very soon. And the flavors from the garlic are going to go in there. It's going to be dynamite.
Question in regards to garlic, frozen garlic. How long will garlic last in the freezer?
It will last you months in the freezer. In fact, you could easily do that garlic like I just showed you, and it will last you a good 3 months, maybe even longer. But at the end of the day, I use a lot of herbs and spices. I use a lot of garlic. I love the flavor, and I love the health benefits of garlic. Garlic has a compound called allicin in it, which gives it that pungent aroma, and it has antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal properties, so it's really great. to help your digestive system, and it's to help, and it helps your immune system as a result. And again, you know, if you're just looking at great tasting, easy recipes, I got you covered on it. If you're looking for great tasting, easy recipes that actually help improve your quality of life and make your life a little bit easier, I got you covered. All right, that's looking good. We're cooking away on that. Let's continue on, continue on. All right, now I've got my mountain of greens here. I like to cook with the stems, and it sort of depends too. Sometimes if the stems are really big, like these are pretty thick, I might pull them and then mince them up and add them, But right now, I'm just going to leave these all together, and I'll probably give some of the stems to my pet chickens. Anybody got pet chickens out there? I love my chickens. Meg Rose, Ginger Harriet. You know, we should have them, like, do a guest spot with them. See how that goes over. That would be quite...
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
With chicken.
Yeah, I suppose they might get a little... Yeah, they might get a little weirded out by that, you know. Let's just not tell them that inconvenient truth there. All right, this is about 1.5 cups here. I'm going to add that. When you are cooking with greens, folks, kale, it's a heavy, dense green. It's going to take, you know, a little bit longer. It's going to take, obviously, a lot longer to cook than something like spinach. But so just keep that in mind. A little tip, here's another little cooking tip for you. If you want to speed up the time, the next time you're going to have a kale dish, have prepared kale that you put in a container or a plastic bag, sucked out the air, you know, just squeeze the air out, and then you can take out that frozen kale and you could add that. And that'll speed up some of the cooking time because the freezing process will break down the cell walls of the kale. So that's a nice little tip to have. We've got about 2.5 cups, maybe close to 3 cups in there. Now, we talked about the stems. I pulled a little bit of that off. You don't have to do that. Again, it's not necessary because I do like the stems. The stems are going to cook longer than the leaves. I had that other secret ingredient that I wanted to tell you about, and the reason why we gave this fantastically simple, tasty, nourishing dish, why we gave it the name Sweet Dreams One Pan Meal, because greens, whether it's the kale, whether it's collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, arugula, spinach, romaine, it has magnesium. I think the statistic right now is like 60% of Americans, and it might be more than that, have a magnesium deficiency. And you might ask, why does it matter? Well, magnesium does all these, it helps your body in a lot of different functions. And one thing that's really important is that it's a natural muscle relaxer. And it helps calm your nervous system, which will help you get better sleep. So if you're not eating, you know, dark leafy greens or avocados or good quality dark chocolate, you're missing out on magnesium, okay? And I prefer to get my nutrients from food whenever possible. So definitely get these dark leafy greens so you can get into your life so you can have that magnesium and it'll help your body sleep better. For busy folks, for people that got a lot going on in their life, like pretty much all of us, having that magnesium is going to really make a big difference. Now, I want to make a little critique on my cooking here, folks. You could definitely, in the recipe I say, cook the chicken until lightly browned. Well, my chicken sort of got lightly browned. And so definitely, you know, it's okay if you don't do it all the way as we say in the recipe. You just want to make sure that it's cooked. And when you do have that, the golden brown color, that's going to create extra flavor. And a lot of that brown goodness, which they call fond, the brown stuff on the pan, that's going to provide flavor. This particular pan that I'm using, it cooks great. It doesn't necessarily collect the fond on the pan, if that makes sense. So just something to think about. We're about 4.5, close to 5 cups of greens in there. Questions, comments, thoughts? That's a negative.
No, well, Sandra says no cut fingers tonight.
No. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, no cut fingers tonight. No cut fingers tonight. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to practice thinly slicing the stems. So BK, you guys were talking about, you know, using the stems, and the thinner you slice them, the better your, the easier they'll be to cook, and they'll take, they won't take as long. Now, you did ask about can you steam them. You certainly could steam them. If you want to speed up the cooking process, you could even, before you do the whole, one pan deal, you could take those thinly sliced kale stems, steam them, or if you wanted just to throw them in the microwave. I'm not a big microwave guy, but you could definitely do that. Again, I want to get all the barriers out for you. So put those in. It would be better if I added the stems first and then added the green leaves, but given that I've thinly sliced them, and I'm going to let this cook for a while anyways, it's going to be, it's going to even out in the end. Now this is a pretty full pan. So if you got to feel pretty good and feel confident about how you're navigating the food so it doesn't spill out everywhere. Folks, please take pictures of what you're preparing, finished product, action shots, prep table, how'd you set up your table with your beautiful dinner. We want to see what you do so that we can acknowledge you and give a shout out. And we're going to do that just in a bit, not quite yet, very, very soon. What I want to do next is we're going to take half of the pinto beans. And if you want to use black beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans, I like you want creamy beans, and most beans are going to work great for this. But we're going to mash up about half of the beans, and it doesn't have to be an exact science. And if you want to take some of the beans and toss them in here and then smash the rest up, you certainly can do that.
Is that canned?
Yeah, so I took canned beans. I took some organic canned beans. What I really want to be, folks, let me back up for a second. In today's world, we want to get the best sleep we can get to help our immune system be as strong as it can be. And when you get the right sleep and you eat the right foods, that is going to make a huge difference from keeping you healthy or making you catch a bug. And I point this out because over 70% of your immune system is in your gut, in your digestive tract. And so certain foods are really going to help support your digestive system, thus supporting your immune system, and certain foods are going to work against you, suppressing your immune system. Beans are a great prebiotic food. I won't get into all the weeds on it, but when I talked about canned beans, I think canned beans are great. I like to rinse them thoroughly so I can get up to 40% of the sodium that's in them out. And I like to buy canned beans, not only low sodium, but we don't need other stuff in them. So I go for minimal ingredient label like beans, water, maybe some salt, maybe some citric acid. Organic beans are generally fit that profile, and you can find, they're affordable and they're great. And so that's what I did. If you want to get dried beans and rehydrate them and soak them and all that kind of stuff and cook them in a pressure cooker or cook them for a few hours on the stovetop, you could do that too. Again, I want to get all the barriers out of the way. Make it easy for you. So we mashed those up. Now, I interrupted myself, but why did I mash up the beans? Anybody know? Let me know in the comments. Hey, has anybody cut their finger tonight? Let me know in the comments. All right, let's mix this up. Well, I'm going to tell you why, unless somebody wants to say why. I mashed up the beans because it's going to help create a little lightly thick sauce. We're going to add tomatoes. We're going to add some broth, right? Okay. Oh, you know what? This is a little, here we go. I'm going to sharpen this up a little bit. Do I have a...
Can you do this dish without tomatoes?
Yes, you certainly can. I like to have the tomatoes in there for flavor and texture, but if you want to use, and a little bit of color, but if you want to do something else, bell peppers, if you don't want anything in there, that's fine. I always like saying, we eat with our senses. We eat with our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears, and I want to make it, taste, I want to make it taste great, make it look great. You notice how my blade's a little not so sharp. Okay, this is great. I'm just going to chop this up. If you want to use canned diced tomatoes instead, I made a mention of that on the recipe. You can certainly do that. Chop this up. Questions, comments, thoughts. Folks, make sure you're following us on Facebook, Chef Marshall O'Brien. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Chef Marshall O'Brien, and you subscribe. Go to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And do us a favor and subscribe there so that we can unlock production capabilities as we increase our subscribers. The bar's pretty low, folks. Help us out, all right? All right. We added some tomatoes there. We're going to do a couple cups of tomatoes. So these 2 tomatoes would be great. This is another one of those foods that, tomatoes, now, just real quick, I'm going to interrupt myself. I have this semi-firm stem core. If it's semi-firm or soft, you don't even need to cut it out. But if it's thick and fibrous, you definitely want to cut it out. Otherwise, it's going to have a texture that's unpalatable if you bite into it. So keep that in mind. But again, if you want to use the canned tomatoes and stuff like that, that's fine. You can certainly do that.
Zainab has a tip. When
Yes.
I prep beans from dry, I make a double batch and freeze them,
Yes.
and then use them as I would canned beans.
I think that's a great idea. Again, it's all about getting the barriers out of the way. And Zane, appreciate you sharing that. You can do, what I would suggest doing, like we collect a lot of glass jars. So you get, you've cooked your beans, you've drained them, and then you can just pack the beans in the containers. They freeze, you're good to go, and then take them out. We do that a lot with garbanzo beans, and it works absolutely lovely.
Steve is asking, should
Yes.
we drain the tomatoes?
If you were to do if you did the canned route, I would do that. Yes, I would drain them. However, if you're gonna let this simmer anyways, that's gonna cook. The moisture from the beans are going to. I'm sorry, the moisture from the canned tomatoes will dissipate, and that flavor will be more concentrated. Now, speaking of flavor, fresh tomatoes and canned tomatoes have different flavor profiles. So you want to just be aware that, if you ever notice when you have canned tomatoes, it's a little more acidic tasting. It has a little more bite to it, if you will. So just be observant of that. And that's where I think, you don't have to drain the tomatoes, but if you do drain the tomatoes, you won't have as much of that acidic bite from the canned tomatoes. So I think at the end of the day, I would do that. So I just changed my direction, or changed my my answer on that. Drain the tomatoes. All right, we're going to let that simmer. Folks, these recipes that we're doing, like tonight with the Sweet Dreams one-pan chicken, this is an excellent recipe that you can have people help you with. If you got kids in your life, you got grandkids in your life, have them help measure the ingredients. They can help pull apart I was chopping everything, but you could tear up the kale. You want to give them something to do so you can have some sanity for 5 minutes? Give them some greens to cut up, or not to cut, well, cut if you want, but age appropriate. To tear up. So they're sitting there tearing it up, and they're kind of going like, what is this weird, stuff? But it's cool. They're making a connection with it. And they're helping. And studies show the more kids or grandkids, any young people, or people for that matter, the more involvement they have, more investment they have in the process, the more likely they will want to actually do it again and enjoy that. And so you're building a positive relationship with that. You don't have to be all philosophical about it, but you understand where I'm going with that. That's really significant, especially a lot of times people are saying, well, I love your recipe, chef, great tasting, nourishing. This food works for me, it gives me more energy, I sleep better at night. My belly's happy, but I've got someone in my life, my husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, that they don't quite see it the way I see it. That's okay. Get them involved. Take it in baby steps. Again, doing something's better than nothing at all. So just keep that in perspective as you're doing that. All right, this looks, I love it. This looks awesome. We're going to add the crushed red pepper. Now, crushed red pepper is optional, but it just gives a little, just a little bit of a zing at the end. Very, very mild. If you want to add more, you certainly can. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Sandy is using tomatoes with green chilies.
That's cool. Nice little flavor addition like that. That sounds great. Okay, let's let this simmer for a bit. And while we're doing that, I want to say awesome job for those that worked on recent recipes. Let's give some shout outs, starting with Teresa Trapp Hildebrandt, made your Mediterranean salad for a side. This referring to the salmon, rosemary, lemon salmon burgers we did last week. Awesome. I'm curious which Mediterranean salad recipe that was. Would you, if you find that, Teresa, post that in your comments. Angela, beautiful. I love how you made a salad out of that. Again, rosemary, lemon, salmon patties on a bed of greens with the yogurt sauce. Beautiful. Nice job. Pam Jacobs says, grilled these on the George Foreman. Hey, that's great. Make it work on an indoor grill. Turned out great. Add a little spinach. This is beautiful. You learned about upping your ingredients and figuring out how to adjust based on that. Well done, Pam. Laura Baller Mahler loved I love that you posted how much fun you enjoying the zesty cilantro shrimp that we had, I think 2, 3, 4 episodes ago. Laura, thanks for sharing. That's so cool. Awesome. Well done. Folks, if you want more help in the kitchen, get our Smart Nutrition Cookbook Meal Planner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, slow cooker, multi-cooker, sauces, dressings. Going to help you. Go to chefmarshallobrien.com/show. Good stuff. Okay. Speaking of good stuff, this looks dynamite.
They're asking the stock. Some people miss you add the stock.
I did add the stock. Yeah, I added the stock right before we gave shout outs. 2 cups of stock. Now let's talk a little bit about the stock. And then I'm going to get back to I was going to make a comment about, actually first I'm going to say, I put the lid on to trap some of the steam in to help break down, and soften the kale a little bit. So that accomplished that. Now we've got nice simmer action going, liquids dissipating, disappearing, flavor staying in. Remember this, folks. When something is simmering and it's evaporating, you're not losing the flavor. Sometimes we think, it's just going to be more concentrated, a richer flavor, and that can be a good thing. So you can always add liquid. Remember that. To the stock, the vegetable broth, chicken broth, any kind of broth that we use, a couple things I want you to keep in mind. And we've talked about this on past shows. And so, folks, please chime in. I know a few of you make your own homemade stocks and broths. Stock and broth for the common cook, for like us normal folks, you cooking with me tonight, me cooking with you tonight. They're more or less going to do this. I mean, they're going to do the same thing for you. It's a flavored liquid. A stock is something that either it's had roasted bones with some herbs and spices that has simmered over long hours of time. You don't have to make it like that. You don't have to do that. A broth might be a base of a stock with added herbs and spices to make some kind of soup base. The point is, for what we're doing, they're basically interchangeable. Now, one thing I want you to really keep in mind, and eventually I'll get smarter and I will have nutrition labels to show you. You have to read the nutrition labels, because that whole vegetable, beef, chicken, stock broth, boxed stuff that we find in a lot of grocery stores, most of those products, wicked high sodium, a lot of junk in there, and you really don't need to have that stuff. So read the label, and you want to have in my mind, 400 milligrams per serving on that stock or less. It's not always possible, but go for the low sodium ones when you can, because you can always add salt, and that salt will help bring out the flavor. Also look for what are the ingredients in there. It should be just like vegetables, meat, things like that. And there tends to be a lot of other stuff. There tends to be a lot of other stuff in there, so I want you to be aware of that. Now, if you want to make your own, and I know in a few past episodes we talked about this, like one thing I love to do, and I haven't done it lately, but I used to do it a lot, is I would take scraps, vegetable scraps, onion scraps, celery, carrots, bell peppers, mild tasting vegetables, maybe some cabbage. Now cabbage isn't, not necessarily mild tasting, broccoli, certainly not mild tasting, but some of those scraps, but for the most part, mild tasting vegetable scraps, pack them in put them in a container, airtight container in the freezer. Then when I want to have a flavored liquid, aka broth, aka stock for all intents and purposes, I would pull some of that out of the freezer, like a good robust handful, just hearty handful, to about 3 cups of water. Simmer it on the stovetop for an hour. Boom, you've got flavored broth, okay? You got vegetable broth. Do it with, bone broth is a big thing. Well, you can make it. Get your slow cooker or Instapot out, put the bones in there, put the water, and let it simmer for a ton of hours, or do it overnight. Boom, flavored broth, okay? And it doesn't have all the junk in it. So there's my thing on broth. I know you didn't ask for that, but I wanted you to have that. Questions, comments, thoughts? All right, this looks great. I think we are. I think we're gonna have to try this here in just a second. Remember, if this is a new recipe for you, or any of the recipes that we're preparing, you want to. By the way, this was the beans, not the chicken. In case anyone was, I got the look for a second from someone over there. taste as you go. Taste the greens. If you're used to cooking with spinach, tonight you're using kale and you're going, whoa, this kale is feels like cardboard because it's so thick and fibrous. Well, it is so thick and fibrous, and so the texture is going to be different. It's going to cook longer than spinach would. The point is, I want you to taste as you go so you can feel the texture. Feel the texture, taste the flavor, which is going to help you feel more comfortable as you're preparing these foods. Just make sure that you, blow on the food or let it cool before you stick it in your mouth. That is good. Oh, I got that nice little crushed red pepper bite. I love it. If you want to up the garlic a little bit, go for it. You want to throw in some other herbs in there, certainly go for it. Cooking is an art. Baking's a science. So make this stuff your own. At the end of the day, I love it. I love it when folks, try to add new things onto it. You want to switch up the meats in there. If you're going to go all vegetarian, take out the chicken and maybe just do, 3-4 different kinds of beans in there. That'd be beautiful. It would taste great. It's awesome. So who remembers why we called this Sweet Dreams one-pan chicken? Especially the sweet dreams part. I want to know in the comments. Speaking of which, questions, comments, thoughts? All right, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to serve you up, folks. Listen, folks. Thank you for letting me cook with you tonight. Thank you for being with me tonight. This was awesome. I hope you enjoy it. I want to see your pictures. I want to know what you thought. I want to know what you thought about it and how you liked it. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, Chef Marshall O'Brien. YouTube, Chef Marshall's Cooking with Confidence. Let's recap real fast. Then we're going to go because it's dinner time. Yes, all right. I'm getting the hey, folks. All right. Recap real quick. Canned tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, that works. You could take your garlic, mince it, put it in the freezer, take it out later. Same with the greens, okay? Also with the chicken, prep that in advance, and then prep that in advance, then you'll have it. Also, when it comes to the beans, canned beans or dried beans that you rehydrate work, you can also freeze those. So we got lots of great tips, and the sweet dreams. Anyone figure out the sweet dreams? Did they tell me? Oh, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, somebody did. Yes. Get magnesium-rich foods into your life. Dark chocolate, dark leafy greens. Get that magnesium. It's going to help you sleep better. Sweet dreams, my friends. All right? Make sure, take pictures of what you made tonight. Action shots, final picture shots. We want to know what worked for you, how it was, so that you can show off all your friends. And we can show you off next week. Speaking of next week, we've got a super, super tasty skillet whitefish with a tangy avocado salsa. It's going to be awesome. Want you to get that, and especially if you're looking for extra help, grab our cookbook meal planner. It's super awesome, Smart Nutrition Cookbook Meal Planner, chefmarshallO'Brien.com/show. See you next week, folks. Have a good one.